Big day for Cardano DeFi, Liquid, and Emerge with the traditional finance space or the TradFi space. Now, in today's interview, I'll be sitting down with Florian as well as Pavel to discuss direct lending opportunities, which will incorporate TradFi systems with DeFi protocols, aka Liquid, from the Cardano community. Now, imagine a scenario where a general person who isn't aware of crypto needs a loan. They'll be able to go to a platform, from there, request a loan, go through a traditional credit check, and if approved, be able to get funds supplied from a DeFi protocol, like I mentioned, Liquid. Now, this provides access to direct lending opportunities, and it also provides a benefit to LQ token holders, while also, again, providing more liquidity to people that may need it through direct lending. Now, as a part of today's video, we're going to be breaking all of this information down, why this is such a game changer, and exactly where this market could go in the near future. Without any further ado, let's jump on in. Oh, what's up, Ada Gang? Welcome into Dapp Central, your home for everything blockchain and crypto. I'm your host here, Farid. As a part of today's video, we're breaking down some new features which will be introduced or announced by the Liquid team. I'll be joined by two members from their team to highlight exactly what's going to be coming down the pipes, when you can expect it, and exactly why it's a game changer coming to Cardano. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce the both of them now. First is Florian. And Florian, you've actually joined me on multiple prior chats here. It's always good to have you back. Last time we talked about Liquid Pro and institutional adoption. And again, I would love to be able to touch base with you on that. Today, we're going to be pivoting a little bit, but it's good to see you again, my friend. How are you?
Thank you, Farid. It's a pleasure to be here. So yeah, I'm doing well, and I think we are close to this bull market. It's starting, and I'm very happy to be here to present you this new product that we envision, because I think it's gonna be really revolutionary, and I'm very happy to be here to explain it to your viewers.
Thank you for taking the time. Now, you didn't come here by yourself. You also brought someone else who's going to make this vision come to life. So without any further ado, let me bring him up, and that is Pavel. Pavel, how are you?
Fantastic. Great to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
No, the pleasure is all mine. Again, gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to be able to break some of this information out to the community. Now, as always, I like to start off with a little bit of an introduction to give the viewers a better idea as to what you guys are doing in the ecosystem. Florian, you've joined me here before. I'll give you the introductory honors, and then Pavel will come right over to you.
So hi, everyone. So yes, I'm Florian based in Switzerland, and I'm a co-founder of Liquid. And maybe also before joining Liquid, I worked a long time ago in Geneva at Ernst & Young, where I was working as a financial auditor. And this is where I met Pavel. So Pavel and I, we know us for a long time. And during my whole career in the financial sectors, I was witnessing that for many people, IT was always a cost. And because of this lack of vision, I was always very frustrated. And then I left my job, and then came the blockchain technology, where I quickly understood that this tech could be very disruptive for the existing banking industry. And when I created Liquid in my own, let's say, white paper, I always envisioned that at some point, this DeFi world will merge with the TradFi world, and then you will have hybrid app, if you want, or institutional DeFi that are using DeFi technology, but are also connected with TradFi operating models. And actually, I'm very proud to have published this paper about the real-world asset direct lending, because it's, let's say, our first use case to use the Liquid platform, which is currently a lending environment, but it's much more like than just an app. It's basically a collateral agnostic platform that we can use for many different type of loans, even if they are secured and unsecured. And we have really a lot of plan, a lot of project to scale and to be able to bridge DeFi with TradFi and finance the real world economy with this platform.
Thank you. And like I said, would love to be able to get you back on to dive into everything liquid. Today, we're going to be talking about something a little bit outside the norm, but thank you there for the introduction. Pavel, over to you.
Thank you so much. And my admiration to the whole of the Cardano community and to you guys. I think the way things are evolving, I've been following the journey with Florian on the sidelines for a very long time. My background is actually in TradFi, in traditional finance. As Florian mentioned, we worked a long time ago at Ernst & Young. And I was in the tax advisory field. I'm a qualified tax lawyer. And I kind of involved in parallel to Florian in the traditional finance space, in structured finance. And this is where I gained a lot of experience in the direct lending field, especially everything to do with the operational side of managing these loans, and also the frustrations that the traditional finance has faced in scaling, and actually kind of democratizing, opening access to this asset class globally. And this is where we've rejoined with Florian when he opened my eyes to what Liquid is capable of, what the possibilities of the blockchain could be, and especially the DeFi. And for me, it became very quickly obvious that this is the future of finance. And since then, I couldn't wait to join forces and to open up that floodgate to bridge the gap between the traditional finance and direct lending and the DeFi space. So very, very happy to be here, and very excited to share the vision with the community.
If I may add for the viewer, Pavel is quite modest on his CV, but maybe Pavel, you could say a few words, because Pavel used to work for two of the biggest, I would say, fund administrator for alternative investments, so TMF and Apex, and he was also head of the digital assets at Apex. So just if you compare this for a football team, it's like having Cristiano Ronaldo, being transferred to your team. So he's really a world-class expert in this field, and he's not just bringing his competencies, but he's also bringing his whole network, because he has more than 10 years in this field, and after work so many years and serve so many clients, he can access to many different people. And Pavel, if you may, just also give a quick introduction about what was your role at TMF or at Apex, and what do you do when you work in such big companies?
Thank you, Florian, and thank you for the flattering words. Really, really appreciate that. More than happy to kind of dive into that. So the experience I gained in the traditional space comes from, as you mentioned, very large fund administrators. So for alternative assets, which includes private debt as one of the big asset classes. So I was head of capital markets at TMF for the European region. And the last couple of years, I was also head of digital assets for another large administrator called Apex Group, who are probably number one in terms of servicing and administrating the funds that invest in the direct lending. With that, I was actually involved in overseeing the operational part side of things. So a little bit, Liquid is a little bit like a fund in the sense that you would invest into a very large portfolio of loans, and the tricky part is to ensure that the loans are run properly. So the administration part in terms of reporting, accounting, but also important aspects of the credit risk monitoring that's involved in overseeing these large portfolios of loans. And this is what I did for a number of years as part of that operations administration team. And also I saw also how tricky it was for the traditional finance to actually come to terms, when you have a very large portfolio of loans, with different interest rates, different criteria, different cycles. Very quickly, things get out of hand, and that's when the technology comes in. So in the traditional world, one of the big restricting factors is how do you manage, deploy a lot of capital in these individual loans, and you administer them at the same time, provide the proper transparency and reporting to the investors, for example, to all the stakeholders that are, taking on board this credit risk. And different traditional softwares, kind of accounting softwares or reporting softwares are out there, but it still remains a very intensive manual process. So the team you have people on the ground literally every day, making sure, to reconcile maybe payments or, report on different, eligibility criteria of the loans, often using things like Excel still, right? Completely, manual process. So in the last probably 10 years or even 15 years, there's been a huge evolution. So a lot of the tech has now moved, to facilitate that process, but it's all off chain. And I think that the DeFi world, the way it automates the whole process of creating a loan, managing the interest payments and everything, is absolutely revolutionary. And this is something that will be a huge game changer for this asset class, which is growing, massively, for various reasons across the world. So from that angle, I've been, a big admirer, and that's why also, very impressed of the scalability of the technology in the DeFi that has harnessed by a Liquid platform, and that could be, open up, I think, really the floodgates also for the, I would say, the participants or the suppliers in the DeFi pools to access this asset class that's now, not really accessible to the wider public, but is restricted to, I would say, limited number of large asset managers.
Thank you. And feel free to continue to brag on yourself. I think, again, this has been an eye-opener for me. And Florian, thank you for making the introduction here. I know, again, in times past, we've talked about introducing TradFi to the space and exactly how much more attention, credibility that brings to the space. And I believe that we're at the very beginning of that relationship with what we're going to be discussing today. Now, I want to just take a brief step back because, again, Florian, when you've joined me here, you've just been representing Liquid. And Pavel, I'm looking at your name down there as well. And there's the mention of Quod Agis. Do either one of you mind explaining what that is? And then we'll dive into what direct lending is as well.
So yes, it's this is I would say a fairly new venture, and we've put it together to join forces with Florian to build that bridge between the TradFi and the DeFi world. We called it Quod Agis, which comes from Latin, stands, continue doing what you're doing, continue on your way. And we thought this was the appropriate, perhaps name and inspiration for, executing the vision that actually Florian had, very in the early days of Liquid, in the first discussions that we had with him before Liquid became what it is, the powerful engine for DeFi. This was the end goal, to be able to finance the traditional economy, and that's why we thought that this is the time has come now that Liquid has matured to join forces and also bring a new set of skills required to bridge the gap between the TradFi and the DeFi world. And that's why we thought, under the Quod Agis, we will put together that team, mainly with experts from the traditional private credit space, from the traditional finance, that will be able to, execute various tasks and the role that Quod Agis will play. Florian, you probably explain shortly what that role will be. But yeah, this is what Quod Agis is.
Perfect.
So I will share my screen and just present the high-level operating model to everyone. Okay, so from one hand, you can see on the left side, we have what we call the credit gates. So credit gates, they are a regulated entity that are offering this type of loans, direct lending loans, to many different SMEs. There, they have the knowledge to onboard the clients, to structure the loan, but also to do the custody and also to do all the loan structuring, especially on the contract side, if you have to liquidate the collateral. Quod Agis is a company in the middle that is there to onboard these credit gates and also to control and also to set what is the credit risk policy we want to have. And Quod Agis is in this role acting as what we call a listing agent. If you want to open a market on the liquid, you will need what is called a technology agent. So it's a company that will operate on the IT side this market. And once you have done these processes, you can open a real world assets market on liquid. When we talk about a real world assets market, it will be some real world assets that are tokenized, meaning this is the security, the collateral, and they can borrow from this pool. And in this pool, we plan to have only stablecoin, fiat-backed stablecoin, that can be supplied by various people, but the borrowers will be solely the companies or the clients that bring these real world assets as collateral. By doing so and having this bridge structure in the middle, we are able to effectively bridge some TradFi workflow with a DeFi infrastructure. And this is what we want to launch, and also why we need a company in the middle, Quod Agis. Quod Agis will be also, legally speaking, the issuer of this token on the blockchain, because obviously there is some contracts, there is a legal part behind this token. And this is also another reason why we need this company here. And also in the middle, the goal for us is when a client signs a contract with a credit gate, basically, Liquid will refinance the credit gate, and the end goal is for a contract that is signed by the client, the next day or a few days after, he can receive fiat money. And for the client, they don't see everything what is happening behind. And the business model basically is that the clients pay a certain interest rate that is to be negotiated with the credit gate, but also in accordance with the listing agent, because there are some costs. And then another amount of interest is being paid to Liquid, to the suppliers. Pavel, if you want to comment on it or add.
Yes, absolutely. So maybe jumping on directly into the direct lending topic, I think, especially for the listeners or the audience, just to explain the typical cycle of a direct lending transaction. As Florian has mentioned, the challenge is often to in that cycle, which is completely off-chain, you have a corporate borrower, for example, that will supply certain collateral that will need to be arranged or structured in a loan lending documentation, and also often include security guarantees and security documents that would need to be signed. And so, from a legal perspective, that's something that's very tricky to put directly on chain. So that's one of the reasons that we were forced to kind of create an additional separate listing agent that will be responsible for making sure that all those documents are in place, first of all. So from a legal perspective, so contractually, things like enforcing the collateral, having those, for example, pledges on the property or on the bank account off chain of the borrower, which is part of the normal kind of security package. This is something that will be, it's a quite a tedious role. It's all off chain, and the way we resolved it is by creating this specific listing agent role that will be responsible for doing that. As Florian mentioned, also in addition to that, the listing agent will also be responsible to oversee the pipeline and the credit risk. So, for example, the credit risk policy fits the profile and the appetite from Liquid protocol as well. So this is something that we will be responsible for. And I think the probably the last but very important aspect of this is also to make sure we provide sufficient transparency as well on the underlying collateral, on the borrowers, on the whole credit cycle for the community and for the DeFi lenders as well. And so these are all traditional finance I would say procedures, so we're not reinventing anything, but I think where we do innovate with Quod Agis is that what we're allowing to do is we're taking that traditional finance established process and we're linking it to the liquidity and the funding, so opening up access to that traditional class of direct lending with all the legal and financial and credit guarantees and transparency to the lenders on Liquid. And I think that is probably where we innovate a lot. And for that, of course, to resolve these legal and regulatory aspects, we had to set up a new entity and this role as a listing agent. And why we're calling it a listing agent is probably because we thought this is a role that is often, that I have done in the past in the traditional world as well, is which consists actually to list, for example, a new security or a new financial product on a marketplace, typically an exchange. And often in that traditional world, you have a listing agent that will make sure that all the boxes are ticked, that everything is in place, and making sure that when the financial product is submitted to for lending for the investors, they can rely that everything is in place as it should be, rather than having themselves to trying to figure out what's what. And I'll stop there and pass over maybe to you.
I just want to say, first off, thank you for the ingenuity, right? Taking the time to think about how we can make this happen. I want to just briefly recap, because what you guys have just shown there, I don't think is a concept that people within the crypto space are familiar with. And as a result, I think it's going to take a little bit of time for them to be able to adjust to actually what this means and the type of opportunities that this now presents. So historically, on a platform like Liquid, it was always lending and borrowing. However, it was someone that's already immersed into crypto who's also lending and borrowing with somebody else who's already immersed into crypto. With what I'm just seeing, you guys are now allowing people from the entire universe outside of crypto, right, to now be able to interact with you guys as sort of that listing agent, going through the credit gate, making sure that they've met all the requirements. And then from there, once they're approved for a loan, that loan is actually being financed or backed by assets coming from a DeFi platform, in this case, Liquid. And so to the end user, they're still going to, a traditional institution, making a loan request and getting some fiat back, but they don't know, nor do they necessarily care, right, where that fiat is coming from. But in this case, it presents a new opportunity to Liquid to now be able to provide their assets to somebody who isn't necessarily tied or relevant in the crypto space. And so I just want to make sure that my understanding of what you guys are doing there in that model is accurate.
Yes, it's accurate. Also in addition, Quod Agis will also leverage Pavel network, but also the partners of Quod Agis to also on the supply side being able to onboard other institutionals that want to finance these direct assets, these deals. So Quod Agis will play on both sides, on the borrower side with the credit gates, but also they will do marketing, business development, and try liquidity in the TradFi market to finance this deal, and by adding the money on Liquid. So why it's so, let's say, so first, as you said, I don't think that anyone is doing this today on the DeFi. So this is it's the first of its kind. And also, how we plan to set up this deal is that the LQ holders will profit from this market, because when you have loans on Liquid, there is always a part of the interest repaid by the borrowers that are distributed to the suppliers, but also to the DAO treasury and to the LQ holders. So the LQ holders will direct profit from it. And I mean, I'm not sure people understand the size of the direct lending, but we are talking about multiple trillion. It's really an industry that is growing up. And I mean, for Liquid, or that was always my goal, to be able to bridge it and to finance the real world economy. And also for DeFi, for Liquid, this also will catapult this application, this protocol, in the fintech category, where you are also viewed by, let's say, traditional finance players as really a different animal, that just, let's say, lending and crypto for the degen.
I love it. Now, gentlemen, this wasn't on the agenda, but I have to ask, because I know it's going to be one of the first comments I'm going to receive when I post this video. And that's, when will this actually happen, or when will this go live? So either one of you, feel free to maybe jump in here. I understand that things might be in the works. And so out of respect, if there's things that you can't share, I fully respect that. But I think it'd be a disservice to my community to not ask when.
So there is, let's say, 3 work streams that we have to complete until being able to launch. One is the governance side. So obviously on Liquid, we're going to have to vote and to create, let's say, this new business line. So I would say today, one of the goal of this video is to educate people, to explain what it's about. Then on the borrower side, we are still in discussion with different credit gates to select the best deals, because obviously we want to have the most secure deal, or the less risky for the higher rate to start with. And on the supply side, then also it depends on the type of deal we want to bring. So to answer your question, deadline, I think it could be ready by the end of August or early September. But yeah, there is always unknown things that can happen. But I guess the first step is at some point for Liquid to start and then onboard the credit gates.
Thank you there, Florian. And I think that vote will be a no-brainer. So I've got no doubts that that's going to pass as quickly as possible to be able to get this new type of service into the Liquid revenue stream. Now, Pavel, you've got a big grin on your face there. I do too. I have to ask you, do you mind maybe talking a little bit more about the numbers in terms of what we can expect? Because I think that was something that Florian just alluded to, right? Was that, like, people may not understand the amount of business that you guys actually deal with or process when it comes to direct lending. So could you maybe give us a better idea as to how much volume we're talking about here?
Sure, definitely. And then Florian, feel free, of course, to jump in. So I think, stepping back, the idea was to open, give access, and as you rightly mentioned, I think to the community that's in the DeFi world, to the wider, I would say, the big world out there. And so we thought, which would be the asset class that is probably the most appropriate for that, right? From opportunity perspective, from yield perspective, from risk perspective. And we definitely identified that the direct lending space, so the private debt, it's probably one of the 3 largest asset classes out there. So we're really, as Florian mentioned, we're talking about trillions of private debt transactions and volumes that are being financed. It's been evolving quite fast. So I think the growth rate over the last 10 years, I think it's in the multiples of hundreds of percent. And one of the reasons is also because this is an asset class that was traditionally serviced by banks and intermediaries. Post the 2008 crisis, the banks have been forced kind of out and start stepping out of this asset class. So suddenly you had a huge opportunity for non-bank lenders to step in. And I think kind of the third wave is probably the DeFi world to jump on board and also participate in that growing asset class. I think also the other advantage we see is, as Florian mentioned, is that the DeFi world will step in, beyond the yield, beyond the opportunity to participate, is also to actually finance the real economy. So I think this is definitely something that is a game changer for the industry, and I think we think this is the first of its kind from all the peers who are leading the DeFi revolution. And from that angle, yes, where I think it's hard to say, I think, in terms of kind of exact numbers, but what we're looking at, of course, is a risk-adjusted return. So as Florian has mentioned, we're carefully selecting, I would say, the opportunities with the lowest risk. So we're talking things probably like government risk type credit risk transactions with a yield that is comparable to the the crypto world. So in the teens of percent yield, and on top of that, we feel that from the direct lending space, it's also something that is quite liquid. So typically, especially in the first transactions that we will be launching, these transactions will be able to be repaid within a matter of months, which was also quite positive. So we can also show and educate the community, how the direct lending cycle works, also how quickly they can expect their payback, and also gradually expand to that transaction volume.
Thank you there. And I know Liquid has, started releasing some of their market stats, right? Which break down, the top APY, stablecoin liquidity, general liquidity, pragmatic rewards, all of that. Would love to be able to also get some of these stats here as this market evolves, because I think it's going to be very valuable for people within the ecosystem to see the numbers. And I think once people see the numbers, it's going to be that much easier to support an effort like this. And so, Florian, I want to jump into sort of closing thoughts and key takeaways, but feel free to add anything to what Pavel has said, or maybe just highlight anything that we haven't discussed so far.
Yeah, so obviously, for us, the immediate goal is to have all the pieces of the puzzle in place and working together. Then starting with, if you want, a first deal, and also to be able to market it and to show to everyone that it works, and then step by step scale. I think we are really starting something revolutionary. Obviously, for Liquid, there will be also reportings that are published on these real-world asset activities, of course. And I'm very excited because it's 5 years in October that I founded the Liquid, and that was always in the back of my head. When can I do something in this field? And I'm very happy, and I cannot wait to start.
The feeling is mutual, and congratulations again. You've been here as a builder very early on, supporting the ecosystem. I know the ecosystem is ready to support you, and being able to tough it out through the bear market, and so to be able to literally have everything just sort of turning in your favor at one time, I think is more than well deserved. Pavel, thank you for joining us here. Any closing thoughts or key takeaways that you want to share with the community? Maybe how they can get in touch with you, join the Quod Agis community, anything to that nature.
Florian, do you want to say a few closing words, or shall I?
No, I mean, for us, it's to start obviously with a governance vote. This is an immediate step with Liquid community. It's just the start, obviously. It's really also learning by doing. And Pavel and I, we are here for the long game, as we always say.
I think maybe just a closing word from me. I think we've kind of taken the image. We're going from the playground, with the kindergarten, perhaps going into the world of grown-ups. So with a huge asset class that is very established, and that has a huge potential from in trillions of volumes. And I think Liquid has now also matured and grown up to step and start playing with the big boys, with the big TradFi, big banks out there. And it's all the testimony to the vision that Florian had in the early days when he founded that. Probably not many people believe that he will get to this point, but I think now is the time when Liquid is stepping up and competing with all these big institutions in a huge asset class like direct lending. So it's very, very excited about this, and I think it's fair to say we're making history there with not just, I think, Liquid and Florian, but I think also the whole of community. So I just want to also maybe motivate everyone to follow, take the time also to see and educate themselves how the direct lending works, and participate in this effort, because it's all about, I think, community, and I think this is where Liquid and Cardano have an edge in this landscape.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. In closing, I think from my perspective, not only is Quod Agis, Liquid, and just traditional finance striking the iron while it's hot, we even just have the US as a whole, right? Passing the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, the Anti-CBDC Act, which all, I think, again, lends itself to this massive push towards the adoption and inclusion of crypto assets within traditional finance, and I don't want to get off topic here, but there's even been some talks about being able to finally allow in the USA people to apply for a mortgage and to actually have their crypto assets count towards their net worth or towards the value that they're bringing to purchase a home. And so these are things and ideas that for a long time people would have said that's never going to happen. But the doors are finally opening up, and you guys have taken the time to, I think 2 steps ahead, right? And to really begin to step forward with this new model, which I have no doubt will definitely be the future of crypto and TradFi coming together. And so that'll bring us to the end here for today's interview. I'll be doing my due diligence in the background. I'll be getting more familiar with direct lending and making sure to share that here with my community. But it's amazing, and it's always a pleasure to actually hear it directly from the people that'll be doing this, that have the experience and that have the knowledge to be able to execute. So Florian, as always, thank you. Pavel, pleasure to meet you. I will definitely be looking forward to having you back on the channel. For you, the viewer at home, if you found this type of content to be informational or helpful, please smash that thumbs up. It is by far one of the easiest ways to support me as a content creator. If you want more of this type of content, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns for Florian, Pavel, or just Liquid, or just how all of this works, right? Because again, it can be a little bit complicated, especially for the first time. Feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll make sure to get those addressed and sent over to the team. That said, and as always, we'll see you all in the next video. Cheers, everybody. Take care.